what's going on, boys and girls? This is going to be a video. Anybody who knows me and sees those three words on my content knows that this is going to be very swear-laden and probably very, quite frankly, bitchy. This is Bryan Lunduke's take on what happens if Linus leaves for good. Sensationalism. Fucking shill. Oh, God. I'm trying to keep my opinion to the content as opposed to the person who I fucking detest. But some reason the community holds him in high regard and fucking bang my head on that fucking wall. I don't know why, but so let's get into his content about why his what's his take on Linus leaving. God help me.
Change can be scary, even in the computing world where change is a constant. Software and hardware and services and companies and people all in a perpetual state of flux. When something lasts for more than a few years, it's almost surprising. I mean, how many products and services has Google killed off in the last 2 years alone? Don't try to answer that. That's like asking how many stars are in the heavens. The correct answer is more than a couple. Despite this constant change, the Linux kernel has continued development since the early 90s. Steady, consistent. Entire operating systems and huge corporations have been created, flourished, and disappeared in that time. So with the current news that the creator and maintainer of Linux taking a break, now seems like a good time to think through what the future of Linux could look like without Linus. He's stated that he intends to keep at it, but you never know. In his time off, he might find a new passion for archery and decide to dedicate his life to traveling to Renaissance fairs around the world dressed as Robin Hood, probably playing a lute. Linus just seems like a guy that would play the lute. Linus and his lute. I like alliteration. Stranger things have happened. Let's start with a simple hypothetical.
For the love of fucking God, you're 2 minutes into this video and you have not made it one single point. Holy shit. Shut up. Get to the point.
Linus Torvalds takes a break from Linux and simply never returns to it. This seems like a pretty simple scenario, actually.
What if Linus gets hit by a fucking bus? We've had this discussion for the last fucking 20 years.
Quite a few well-experienced Linux kernel developers that clearly have the chops to take on the work that Linus currently handles as the gatekeeper of code. Heck, Linus even named Greg Crow Hartman to handle this work while Linus is himself on break, which to me is a clear indication that he would be the heir apparent for the master of all Linux role. Sort of like when a CEO steps down at a company and a new interim CEO gets appointed. Sure, that's a temporary position, an ICEO, but it's well understood that this is typically a way to test out a new person in the role before making it permanent. Sure, there may...
I want to do nothing but bitch slap you right now.
Maybe some unease for many, as Linus has done a pretty remarkable job of keeping Linux moving forward for the last quarter of a century, and then some. But from an engineering standpoint, seems like we're in pretty safe hands. A bigger issue could be that of the name and trademark. To my understanding, Linus himself owns the trademark to Linux, which is administered by the Linux Foundation, specifically by LinuxMark, which you can see at linuxmark.org. I'm assuming that the Linux Foundation has taken steps to ensure that they can continue to administer that trademark even if Linus himself decides he doesn't want them to anymore.
This is all hypothetical BS. What if? How come? Potentially, maybe. Can you get to the point that you're actually looking for? Because I'm not seeing it as far as the trademark. That has been taken care of for a long fucking time. You seriously don't think there's not going to be a foundation at this point? Which, there is. That hasn't thought about what happens if Linus gets hit by a fucking bus. God.
But that's really just a branding issue, and while potential brand or name change could be chaotic, the project would survive just fine. While we're talking hypothetical anyway, let's kick things up a notch, because I love me a good hypothetical doomsday scenario. What if Linus took his ball and went home?
What if you grew a pair of balls?
After taking some time off, he realized, gee, I sure do like working on Linux, but I don't want to do it with company backing anymore. I'm going to only work on it independently and only with my friends. It's crazy, I know, but it could happen. Heck, I bet he could make a absolute killing through crowdfunding Linux development. I know I'd support him on Patreon. That's all a little...
The free software only person prompting Patreon support. Fucking. The what if Linus goes home and takes his ball and goes home with it? It doesn't really matter. The code's there. There's so much momentum. There's 3,300 developers or something on this last release for the kernel. You would literally have to shave and shift every single developer over to that new kernel. And that kind of trajectory just ain't fucking easy. Kind of like watching your video right now. Ain't fucking easy.
A little bit of a joke, but seriously, what if? In that scenario, would other organizations, companies, the Linux Foundation, etc., fork away from Linus's Linux in order to maintain some form of corporate influence of the project? Most of the contributions at this point are specifically to support commercial interests, with some...
Oh no! Commercial interests!
Some of the biggest contributors being part of the Linux Foundation trade organization, so a fork wouldn't be entirely out of the question for them.
And me shoving a fork in my eye because of this video would not be entirely out of the probability. Oh, hey, guess what? I have one. Please?
Would they need to rename it to something else? Probably. Would Linux Foundation itself need to change the name of their organization? Also probably. What would all the various Linux distributions do? Would they maintain compatibility with both kernels? Would some go with the Linus approved version while others standardizing on the non-Linus Linux fork, whatever it's called? Immediately, it probably wouldn't cause many issues, as they would both likely be source and binary compatible. But that could only last for so long. Okay, this scenario is a little on the scary side, I'll admit.
It's not scary, it's ridiculous, it's fucking childish, it's asinine, it's stupid. Take your pick. Then again, I'm watching one of your videos, and that's pretty much all your stuff ever is. Can you get to the fucking point of your topic of your video? What if Linus leaves for good? Not hyperbole or hypotheticals. You're asking a hypothetical question. Give real hypothetical answers, not hypothetical hysterical bullshit.
Admit, it's mildly terrifying. Luckily, it does seem pretty gosh darned unlikely. Or does it?
Or does it that I'd be intrigued in your video enough to actually fucking subjugate myself to watch this shit? Get to the point.
This is one of those moments where I sit back and I think, gosh, Lunduke, you're a ridiculous human being.
You're a ridiculous human being sponsored by Purism and a shill and a self shill for only yourself, and the community can go get fucked. Just in case you want to know my opinion of you, you're number one and number two.
Sponsored in part by Purism, who make amazing laptops that ship with GNU/Linux, or as I've taken to calling it, GNU plus Linux. However you want to call it, they put free software on laptops. They make the BIOS free, the wireless.
Sorry,
and the
I'm
webcam.
skipping the
how
fucking
rad is
plugs.
that? Find out. That's how seeing them around for well over a decade now.
And you can pogo yourself right out the fucking door,
really
please.
Proud to have themselves some servers. It's incredible. I'm still kind of bummed out. My favorite by 6 Prince Bench is huge. Piece on its base to just like which out is fantastic. Pike, the various other places. I couldn't do it without all this one. Spooky. I like this one. I'll be like, this. That's a crazy. So they deserve lights. We're slowly kind of episodes have been written articles. Scratches that itch. Faces. I used to write for a subscriber every time I write one way. So I'm gonna I've got a random day.
That was 9 minutes of shit in my life that I will never, ever, ever fucking get back. And almost half of a 9-minute video was pointless rambling, sponsorships, and where we can pay for your content, or asinine, unrealistic, hypothetical questions. The core question is, what if Linus leaves for good? Things will continue. Things will change, but things will fucking continue. So, people want to know why I don't watch Lunduke's fucking commentary. Did you see any commentary in 9 minutes? I ended up fast forwarding it because it was 2.5 minutes almost of nothing but fucking plugs for him to whore and shill himself. And this is someone the community looks up to. Fucking why? Then you have 1.5 minutes of shit that's not even remotely related to the topic you're discussing. Then you have asinine, stupid, hypothetical bullshit questions that make no fucking sense to the topic you're supposedly being a journalist on. Get to the fucking point, you dumb motherfucker. So in case you want to know my opinion on this content, it's shit. What a surprise. So you guys know what to do. Rate it, subscribe, and hey, Lunduke, fuck you.